What's your guys' thoughts on miscanthus? Obviously, it's polarizing. What's your guys' opinion?
I think some universities have commented that it's sterile and that it's not going to spread and get out of hand. Again, the flip side is, well, what about the Eastern Red Cedar? What about all the other stuff that they said that about over the years? You know, Phragmite or whatever else. I've planted it. I'll recommend it, but I'll also, instead of that, recommend a native, which would be like a cave and rock switchgrass instead. It takes a little bit longer to establish. I mean, it's about the same time to establish, actually. How about you? How do you feel about it?
I'm getting away from it. I mean, we recommend.
Lights,
camera,
follow the trail. Ready to shoot.
If you know where a deer's bedding and you know where he's eating, that deer should be dead.
Camera.
If you're passive on a deer, what you're doing is you're teaching them.
I've got 30 bucks in the Michigan record book. Everyone but one has had at least one previous wound on his body. Some had as many as 4.
Trail Cam Radio from the guys at Exodus.
We're live in the studio. We have 2 special guests. This is the inaugural guest show here, I think, for actual podcasts. So,
is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I don't think we've had a guest. We've been aiming towards this day. We have Jared and Brian from Habitat Podcast. Where are you guys from? How long was the drive in? Sure.
I'm from Michigan, Brighton, Michigan, just north of Ann Arbor. Drive was about 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Ooh. So knocking on 4 hours.
Yeah.
You guys got here at 9 o'clock. So what time did you get up?
4:45.
Got it.
4:45. Stumbled into the shower, got out, got in the car, and podcasted the whole way here, pretty much.
Solid. Well, thanks for making the trip. And what about you?
Yeah, I'm just down by Pittsburgh, a little town called Collier Township, just west of Pittsburgh, between Pittsburgh and the Ohio line, and just about an hour and a half ride. Come in, pretty easy drive.
Solid. So, talking this a little bit before we started recording, sounds like you guys have a lot of irons in the fire. But what do you guys do professionally? Like, what's your day gig?
Yeah. So prior to the podcast and still now, I'm in packaging sales. Mm-hmm. So containers, closures, sprayers, hand sanitizer's been popular recently, as you guys know. Yeah. It's been insane. And so that's been very busy. Been doing that for 10 years, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been a police officer for 27 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've been with the same department that I'm with now for 24 years, starting my 25th next month. So getting closer to retirement. Thankfully, the way things are going today.
Yeah. I mean, geez, oh man, like we won't get into. I mean, we can't get into politics, but we usually don't. But the stuff that you guys are dealing with right now, like,
couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Nah, man, what a freaking mess.
I'm pretty blessed. It's pretty rural where I'm at still. There was 20 farms when I moved in there and started working there, but they've slowly turned into housing plans over the years.
Right.
But it's still pretty quiet, thankfully. But anything can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
So. Just trying to keep my head down for a few more years.
I hate to even say this, but we did not know you were a cop, but we did get coffee and donuts.
I was waiting.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. But that's cool. Thanks for coming down here. Now, I listened to episode 100 on the way out, and I have some questions about that later. But tell us a little bit about how the Habitat podcast got started, and then also like just the progression. How'd you guys meet, and to how you guys got here today.
I think I can handle that. So basically, I got down this rabbit hole of the QDMA forums, Quality Deer Management forums back in the day. People would buy their property, put it on there, and be a thread. You'd follow along with their habitat improvements. Just mesmerized by it. You know, you can watch somebody transform a property, and hunting gets better as you do it, right? Mm-hmm. So eventually, he was on there already prior to me. Didn't talk to each other on there really, and then. I ended up buying a piece of ground in Michigan and started going to the ATA show. And then we had started chatting a little bit after that, once the podcast got going and whatnot, and I asked Brian to be my episode number 2 guest. So right off the bat, I said, sure, yeah.
You're really scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Really trying to just get anybody I could to come on. And and Brian was awesome. And he had his 40 up in Ashtabula right then. So we talked about that a lot. And then he said, hey, you ever need any help co-hosting, let me know. And the gentleman I started it with, I mean, it's my business, I own it, but he was a partner of mine and was in it. And he just couldn't commit the time. You guys know.
Yeah.
Time suck. It's awesome. It's a big commitment, but it's a lot of time. And so he kind of bailed, and Brian said, I'll step in. And it's been history ever since. That was 2018, January 1st, we launched the first episode. So it's been just over, a little over 3 years, 3.5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 130 episodes in.
Yes, sir.
What's your guys' posting schedule? Is it weekly, bi-weekly?
It's weekly now. It was not weekly for a while. It was every 10 days, week and a half, just as my schedule allowed and trying to, the family, the kids, all that work. But now I've committed to doing a weekly show for starting this year, and it's going well. Every Thursday at 5:30 a.m. is when it launches.
So,
except for yesterday, it was a little bit later.
We run into the
It's
same
every
thing
Thursday.
occasionally.
Yeah.
It's weekly now. Yep, 130 episodes in.
Cool. And then also you guys do some habitat projects too, right?
Yes.
Consulting.
Yes, so we felt that it was the time to get into that market based on all these habitat companies popping up. Like, if we're going to enter this market, we better do it quick. So we did, and we started off with a kind of a soft launch. It's pretty much habitat consulting on your property. We'll come, show up, walk it with you, help you improve your habitat for your hunting or for wildlife, whatever you want to do, bird watching, whatever. We can help with all of it, and that's kind of how it started. We worked with maybe a dozen clients last year or so, and then this year we're full force, full steam ahead. Yeah, we're Ohio, New York, Michigan, Illinois. You're going to Virginia, I think, soon. We're all over the board now with this consulting. Nebraska, yep.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, so some of these are we offer a digital service as well.
Okay.
We'll study maps with you and have you take pictures on your farm and then send them to us, and then we can kind of dissect it that way. And then, when we can, we'd like to get our boots on the ground.
Sure.
You can tell more. We need to do that.
So how are most of those clients finding you?
Through the podcast.
Through the podcast.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yep. So we created our own advertising stream or lead generation tool, if you will.
Yeah,
And
you have to. Like,
it was just insane how it worked out. Because I asked every single person, right? We're all in marketing, we know. How'd you find us, etc. And every one of them, maybe except one, but like every one of them was on the podcast. So
Sure. Yeah, those turn into referrals, and then yeah.
powerful medium for sure.
And we kind of split up because he's in PA, right? So he kind of takes
Eastern part.
the eastern part, and then I can a lot in Michigan. I can kind of generate the Midwest a little bit. So it's a good team.
What year did you buy your parcel?
2017, February of 2017.
Got
And Brian, you've been buying pieces a little longer than that?
Yeah, I bought my first farm in 2005 down in Cambridge, Ohio,
Okay.
right by, I guess that's Guernsey County.
Okay.
So, yeah, I started out with a 25-acre piece, had that for about 4 years, flipped that and bought a 40-acre piece up in Ashtabula, and just sold that, 6 months ago.
Good time to sell.
Great times.
Really good time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
And this guy knows his stuff too, so it's fun. It's been fun following him along, his threads and watching over the years and all his forums. It's pretty cool.
So you guys dove into like QDM concepts based on like your own personal interest or for your own personal gain, I guess. Like you wanted to have
The best parcel you could.
right. Is that an accurate statement, I guess, or assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and being from PA with the hunting pressure and the hunter numbers, you get a little bit frustrated over there. Even some of the private farms I have permission on, trespassing's a problem. So you start branching out, and I met a couple guys from Ohio. They were gracious enough to open up their farms to me, and then got a little bit older, started having a little more money in the bank, and thought this would be great to get your own piece of property and kind of create your own destiny.
Right.
How old were you in 2005 when you bought your first piece?
2005, I was 30.
30.
Yeah. Yep.
What was that? What was your emotions as you bought that?
Oh,
I'm
it
guessing
was,
probably a younger family at that point.
yeah. I just had my second daughter when I turned 30. So, yeah, a lot on my plate. I was working full time. Before I met Jared and started doing the podcast, I did some things in print media for the PA bow hunters, United Bow Hunters of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And before that, I had a magazine, Habitat or Bowyer's Journal. I was into traditional archery.
Oh, cool.
So started out with some freelance writing for some different magazines, Traditional Bow Hunter magazine, Primitive Archer magazine, and then just got to know the business from those guys. And everybody said, hey, we need a magazine for people that build their own bows and hunt with them. So kind of come home, told my wife, hey, I'm going to start a magazine. She's like, what? What do you know about that? I said, well, I've written for a few, so we'll figure it out. And that was a fun ride. So it's
What
been
year
a
did
pretty
you start
cool journey.
that?
That was 2005 also.
Got it. Busy year.
Yeah.
Irons on fire, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, real busy.
Well, it's cool to see like there's it's just not like a fly by night thing. Because I think a lot of guys see trends and like want to get their feet in certain trends, but like early adopters, I guess, is what we have here. I mean, you guys have been doing stuff for
Long time.
over a decade.
Yeah, over almost 16 years, 17 years,
Yeah.
based on that math.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, as you guys have kind of learned and basically put these things into practice and have figured things out on your own, what would you say is like your land management style? Because I mean, all of the people that we talk to, there's a lot of common things, but everyone has their own nuances of like, I would never do this, and these people say, well, I would never do that. So like, what is your guys' kind of like land management style? If you had to break it down, like, is it a mix of Jeff Sturgis with a mix of someone else, or like, what does it look like?
It depends, right? It's no, it's not the answer you wanted to hear, but it does. It depends on the property, where you're at, what your problems are, what your lowest hole in the bucket is,
Yep.
what your neighbors are doing. In Michigan, where I'm from, it's low pressure and cover. There's food everywhere for the most part, and if there's not, we'll add it. But entry, exit, stand locations, cover. It's, swamps like you're talking about. I bought my property because there's a 300-acre swamp next to it. Only reason I bought it. It's and then with what you were saying, when hunting gets a little tough, we create these improvements to try to have better hunting in tough spots like PA and Michigan. So that's kind of my style, is really cover, stay the heck out, and strike when the time's right.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's evolving all the time.
Sure.
There's things that we did 5 years ago that we won't do now, just from the learning curve. We're seeing a trend going back to more native plantings and more no-till, trying to improve the soil health.
Yeah.
So as we learn about that, we're buying more into that. I sold my tractor and my tiller. We're getting more back into the native stuff, and I think that's kind of where we're going now. But like Jared said, it's situation dependent and dependent on. But we've learned from Sturgis, we've learned from Eric Long, we've learned from Steve Bartilla, we've learned from all these guys. Most of them have been guests on our show. Eric Long was a consultant of mine on my 40 acres. Just being able to pick the brains of all those people has just been amazing.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
The native, non-native thing is like a hot,
Oh my gosh,
trending topic
Yeah.
right now. I mean, it's like you get on any habitat group or forum, it's like
heated.
it is a battle.
One person says kill all the honeysuckle, get rid of it all, and then the other person says, well, it's not. Although it's invasive, it's not native and grows aggressively.
there's
but yeah,
Two different, you
Yeah.
have non-native, non-invasive,
Yeah.
items, and then you have native. Like it's a whole. I don't think we need to go down that
Sure.
wormhole. I'm just saying, like,
Or we can talk hinge cutting if you want.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really get some hate mailing out.
the hack and squirt or girdle, and
Yeah.
there's just, like you said, there's a lot of contradiction.
yeah,
All in on one style, completely against on the other side. Like there's just,
and that's where I think there's true value with like business that you guys have, because you get someone that's trying to learn that on their own, their first piece. It's overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
you feel like, oh,
We've done
like,
it.
you cut down a tree and then it's like you feel crappy. Like that tree's never gonna grow back, and like then it's just, I don't know. Like you can't undo a lot of it. Or
Great point. And the tree thing makes sense, right? Because at first you're like, I don't want to cut down that tree. It's been here for 30 years, but now we're to the point where we can't cut enough.
Yeah.
Like it's how our minds have shifted, which is how everybody, like even our listeners, start at episode 1 where we were, and then you go through all 130, they shift too.
Yeah.
It's really cool to learn with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess break down a little bit more about why you guys are wanting to be more aggressive with cutting down trees in general.
Yeah, so I mean, you go into a mature forest besides an oak forest with acorns, there's really nothing that offers anything for the deer. So if you're setting up your property for deer hunting and you have an old open forest that you can see, 50 acres across, you may have some deer in there when the acorns are dropping, but that's going to be it.
Yeah.
So
I hunt a farm just like that, and it's either really good or really bad, and it's short windows of both.
yeah.
That's interesting. So let me ask you this though. All right, one's from Pennsylvania, one's from Michigan. Do you feel if you can do it in PA and Michigan, you can do it anywhere?
I mean, not like anywhere. Like it's not easy.
Sure.
It's not easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm gonna go walk down these Ohio hills tomorrow and shoot one. But we're dealing with the toughest of the toughest. It is hunting pressure. Bucks get smart very quick. But I'm not trying to be confident and cocky at all because it's not my style. I just know that a lot of people have said, good hunters come from states like PA.
We've talked about it,
Michigan,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Some of the greats.
I mean, I'm not there yet, but I agree.
Yeah.
Eberhard, Sturgis, get all these guys.
We've done a whole episode like breaking down
Some of the
legendary
best
or some of the goats in our industry that have like unbelievable resumes, and
majority of them
a
Michigan,
lot of them Michigan, Pennsylvania,
Wisconsin too.
Wisconsin. They grew up in those states. They kind of cut their teeth in those states, and then they're moving on to the Midwest for better opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, and buying a nice size farm in Iowa,
Right.
which is it. I mean, that's the promise.
That's the
land for
dream,
anyone.
right?
Yeah,
Like, that's the dream.
Scott
Absolutely.
Buckley did that. He's from Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know Scott very well.
he was on that
Killers.
list. Yeah,
Bunch
Sure.
of killers.
Yeah.
yeah.
Scott's an animal, man. Like,
Oh.
such a nice dude.
Such a
but
good guy too. Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
We were out there.
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago now? 2 springs ago.
2 springs.
The spring of 2020. Was it COVID?
Right before, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And did a Whitetail Cribs episode with him. Hung out with him and the family, and he was like, "Let's go." He left his personal farm alone
So we could go
so
shed
we could
hunt
go
it
shed
together.
hunt
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
together for like
Jeez.
So much
And-
fun. One of the
guy.
picked up like I don't know 40
40 plus.
Yeah,
40 plus,
in a day.
a 170 deadhead.
That's why we moved to Iowa,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was,
yeah, it was incredible.
and then I went back, even where I'm at in Illinois, I was like, man, this kind of sucks. I can't find anything. I walked 500 yards and I found something now. But that was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's interesting to see. I just feel like if people who are ate up or infatuated in those types of states, I do think that transfers more success as you go on out of state hunts to places that have less hunters and more quality deer. I mean, that's just the fact of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know, you guys travel all around, Chad. You're all over the place, and I mean, it's different.
It
You
is.
know, it's different when there's low pressure or less pressure.
It is.
It's like deer are doing what they're supposed to do. What's
Yes.
up with that?
Yep.
It's cool.
For sure. I know you touched on wanting to improve soil. Like that's been kind of basically a main objective now. What are some top level things of, I don't really know anything about improving the soil. So someone like me, what would be some initial tips or talking points to share?
Yeah, so I mean, with improving soil, you also can get away with minimal equipment. I just had an article published in Michigan Outdoors where I talked about food plotting with like a sprayer and a spreader, and that's it. And it saves your soil too because you're not tilling it up. Where I have in Michigan, we're all very sandy soil, like almost a beach kind of, and it's your nutrients, everything just drains right out if you flip that ground over. So it's high level. It would be beneficial to limit your synthetic inputs, fertilizer. After a few years of doing this way, you build your own fertilizer with the worms underground, and then it's actually you can plant your food plot, do it all in one day. Where before you go out there and spray, wait 2 weeks till it die. Go out there and till, wait 2 weeks, we'll spray again. Now we plant, and you take me forever. And I'm trying to be efficient with my time too.
Yeah.
And you're improving the soil.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, less intrusive. And then all of a sudden, gosh, like weekend warriors is like, well, I can't go do this right now because it's raining right now. Or it's going to rain Sunday and I need to spray it Saturday. And then, so I mean, yeah, you're going to have more successful food plots, I would assume.
Do you think, like with that style and maybe going away from herbicides, right? Like there's more forbs, there's other plants other than what you're planting, regardless of like if it's, I don't know, rye, clover, turnips, like whatever you're planting. Do you think that gets a bad stigma because it's not a nice, pretty, like pristine, like industry food plot? Does it take people a while to come around on that because they're seeing other things like deer are still eating them, jewelweed. Like there's a lot of nutritional value in this stuff, but people think that they're weeds.
You're not going to post it on Instagram.
Yeah, right? I mean, did you get any like kickback or anything from?
This guy right here just came around to it.
Yeah.
You were the conventional guy for a long time, and his food plots always look the best. I mean, just
That's what
That's
I
what
mean.
I
They look
always
wonderful.
wanted them to look like, the stuff you see in the QDMA magazine.
exactly.
and they did.
But thinking back, to the way things were before all this mechanized and the industrial revolution and everything, I just watched a video from Dr. Grant Woods about the native prairie grass and the native forbs and things that he's gotten back to, the property that he's managed in Missouri, I believe. When he bought it, he had a sea of cedars that was contributing nothing to the wildlife cover.
Sure.
But that's about it. He took all those down, quit tilling the ground, let the natural forbs come up, burned it, I mean, prescribed fire is huge if you can do it and have the cojones to do it. We just had our friend Corey down at our lease down in southern Ohio, and he said, "Man, I would love to burn this right now. I'll get my lighter." He's not afraid to do it. So if you know what you're doing, that's one of the best things you can do. And to see Dr. Grant Woods turn that into that was something special. And it doesn't look like a pristine food plot like you think in your mind, but there's tons of deer in it.
Yeah. There's some farms I walk and they're like, to the human eye, they look awesome. Like, oh man, like you have this here, you have this there. And then it's like, you look at a map, you figure out like how to hunt it. Like, that sucks. Like, there's no reason you don't kill any deer. Like, it looks gorgeous as you drive by, like with your side by side and you have your buddies there. They're like, oh man, your farm looks great. But then it's like, what's the human nature versus what needs to happen are two totally different things. And that's the biggest thing to overcome.
Well said. Well said. You're taking Mother Nature, who's very diverse, right? And you're making it to what we want, which is monoculture, to look pretty. You know, what if your brassicas fail and your food plot's toast, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you have, the way you just planted our lease down there, you have 7-8 different species, all in there, better for the soil. It's, if you can get over the aesthetic part of it, it's a
That's
win.
the biggest thing, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's the biggest struggle. So what are, if someone wanted to dive more into soil strategy, is there any sources of information that you guys would suggest? Any books, any specific podcasts that you guys have done?
So I know there's a few different books out there. I know Dirt to Soil is a good one. I have that playing in the car right now, actually. There's Green Cover Seed makes a nice guide that they hand out every year, which is full of good information. Grant Woods, all his stuff on YouTube's great.
Our buddy
Who am I
Al.
missing? Oh, Al Tomeshko. He knows a lot. He has an Instagram. I think it's called Build Better Soil.
Yes.
That's a good one. There's a lot of, it's like a whole nother rabbit hole, right? It's a whole nother thing you can dive into and really learn a lot about it. As far as our podcast, I know we had Phil Holcomb on a long time ago where we talked about no-till food plots. We talk about it a lot. Need to get Grant on there, interview him probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So as you guys have kind of traveled and done, you know, whether it's your own farms, what is, you know, for each of you, what is one thing that you did and it's like, wow, that was a major difference, like that improved my farm 30%, 40%, whatever the case may be? What would have been those two projects or so?
I've seen a big improvement compartmentalizing different things, giving the deer some type of, we use Border Patrol from Killer Food Plots. It's a high growing cover that you can, you know, border your food plots instead of having that beautiful open clover field where the deer are going to stand in the cover until dark to come out and eat.
Yep.
You just surround it with some taller stuff and give them a reason to come out early. And that seems to be a big improvement.
I think for me it would be having timber harvest. So opening up the canopy. That's the biggest thing. We talk about it all the time. Just keeps coming back to that. Sunlight hitting the forest floor. That and some hinge cutting. It gets a bad rap sometimes, and we don't recommend you go hinge cut your whole farm. We use different tools. It's like a tool in your tool belt, right?
Sure.
And that provides immediate cover, and you can do it with some junk trees, so you're not losing out, and it just works. Just again, sunlight, really.
When you guys are going in and looking at different pieces and parcels, and you're looking to hinge cut, the majority of the time, are those creating, like we're obviously doing that to create cover, side cover, but are you doing those strategically, like around bedding areas, or is it like to increase or I guess make those movements, those daylight movements, more specific, like from bed to food, or is it kind of both? Like where, majority of the time, I guess, where are you implementing hinge cutting strategies?
That's a great question. There are a couple different ways to do it. The first one you hit on first is like your barrier, right? You cut them maybe knee high or waist high, so where it's laying low, the deer don't want to walk across that. They really can't, so they'll go around it. You can steer that way, or you can hide your parking spot where I park my truck, or you can hide, like Brian said, the edge of a food plot, hinge a couple along there. The deer have to come out and around and go out there now before just seeing on the way out. But the one that I like more is for bedding. So you're doing that a lot higher, you know, waist to chest high. Some guys even go above their head, a little dangerous, but you can do it if you know what you're doing. And that's bedding area stuff.
Right.
And then in between the bedding and the food, you can hinge cut perpendicular to your trail, which is like a travel corridor. So they're feeling safe inside there now, right? And we recommend that a lot too.
Have you guys, a few years back, I was able to walk Jim Brocker.
Yeah.
Walked his farm.
Really?
It's probably been 3 years now, and that's a guy who, again, like the hinge cutting thing is.
Wrote the book on it.
Yeah, but I mean, he's doing every aspect. Like a lot of those trees he's cutting are a lot higher. Creating some overhead canopies, and then there's other guys that are like, deer won't use it. Like I know Jeff talks about like they got to be down for horizontal cover, and so it's like I walked that piece, and again, a Michigan parcel. 70 or 80 acres. It's not a giant piece, but like what you said, Brian, every single little checkerboard of that parcel is done for a reason, and everything's compartmentalized like for a specific use. Like there's nothing done there like haphazardly. I'm gonna go hinge cut this tree, and I'm gonna leave these oaks alone, or I'm gonna plant food here. Like everything's done with a specific purpose. And like the deer sign there it's crazy, absolutely crazy. He's an interesting guy.
Yes.
Very intelligent too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Have you guys had him on the? 3
or 4 times.
Okay. So you know all about it then.
Yes. He is very he compartmentalizes his property a lot. He literally wrote a book about hinge cutting, and is very passionate about it for it. And yeah, he's a great job. Jake Ealinger is another guy down there.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
he does all.
Yeah.
I walked his property. Unreal. Like he said, the sign is unreal. And these guys have been hinge cutting for years. There's Mike Hart just from it. A lot of this stuff originated it's not a necessity, right? You need cover. That's why they do it. And then in terms of Jeff and Sturgis and what he does, he still uses it. I hear him talk about it.
A lot.
They have some guys different opinions and
Yeah,
whatnot.
right.
But it's a thing. It's a tool.
I think the one cool thing is, I think any successful consultant, whitetail consultant, property manager, and this falls in line with you guys, is like they have an open mind. Like it's not a shoebox solution anywhere you go. Like
Yeah.
Custom solutions.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, parcel dependent.
Yeah, anytime somebody says there's an absolute that you have to do it this way, whether it's habitat or hunting mature bucks, it's like there's not always an absolute answer. So kind of be careful around anybody that's pushing that.
Yeah. Polarization. Yeah, anyone that's polarized on any topic.
Right.
Like, my red flag come up a little bit. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about timber management just in general. Is there such thing as too much? You guys are more on the aggressive end right now, it sounds like. Is there such thing as too much?
Sure. I mean, if you went in and dropped every tree without a plan, you're just going to create a giant blockade that nothing's going to be able to get through there except maybe some rabbits. So definitely have a plan. We recommend talking to a forester. Most states and local counties have somebody in your area that can come and help you at no cost. Not everywhere, but most places do. That's a great place to start. What you have to remember is foresters are more dedicated to timber management and most of the time trying to get you some money back for future generations and taking timber harvest at certain times. They're not really lined up for habitat management for deer.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to balance that. Most of them will work with you. I've heard a couple of stories from people that said, hey, this guy just had no idea, but that's very few and far between. If you say, hey, I want to balance, they'll be able to work it out with you.
Plus, when you're doing that and you go in and clear cut a whole block, which they do in northern Michigan a lot, and the deer do get in there and use it for cover and food. It's like a natural bait pile, if you will, right? It's the food source. But you're also going from one monoculture to the other, right? You got a mature park-like woods, and now you're cutting it all down. You got to go in between. You need some diversity. You need a mosaic in there, not just one or the other.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. One question I had. So I was creeping your guys' Instagram. You had or maybe it was your YouTube, hand drill with a little digger and planting miscanthus.
Oh yeah.
How did that? Because I'll tell you this. 2 years ago, I helped plant a bunch of miscanthus, and I did it with a shovel. And I was like, gosh, that would have shaved so much time off. Would have been a better survival rate. But how did that go?
That was all you.
It still sucked.
Did it?
Yeah, it still sucked. It was fine. I mean, I'd recommend getting the bit that's longer, so you don't have to bend over the whole time.
Sure.
But yeah, it was good. That's another polarizing topic, right? That miscanthus. But
Oh yeah.
it's effective. It grows, creates a wall. Brian was there. So that was with a drill, like a bit you buy on Amazon and drill it in and then pop it in there. It worked. It was still a lot of work. Brian actually, you'll go through and you'll till a strip, tiller,
Yep.
and then kind of.
Yeah, just use the back of my heel, my boot, kick out, 4 inches or whatever you got to get down for the rhizomes, and yeah, that made it pretty quick because the ground was already loosened up.
That makes sense too.
Yep.
Do with whatever you got in terms of equipment, right?
Yeah, you make do with what you have. What's your guys' thoughts on miscanthus? Obviously, it's polarizing. What's your guys' opinion?
I think some universities have commented that it's sterile and that it's not going to spread and get out of hand. Again, the flip side is, well, what about the Eastern Red Cedar? What about all the other stuff that they said that about over the years? Phragmite or whatever else.
Yeah.
I've planted it. I'll recommend it, but I'll also, instead of that, recommend a native, which would be like a cave and rock switchgrass instead. It takes a little bit longer to establish. I mean, it's about the same time to establish, actually. And it's a little more finicky off the bat, but it's native. And you can, benefit more species that way, like upland birds and whatnot, too. So I'm not against it. It's another tool in your toolbox, but there's always a good native that you can usually fall back on. All depends on the client. Sometimes they will hear about that miscanthus. Show me where to put that. Okay, we'll help you out there with that.
Right.
How about you? How do you feel about it?
I'm getting away from it. I mean, we recommend to all of our land plan clients now switchgrass if you can. But some people just don't have the means to plant the switchgrass. So, like Jared said, it's a tool. Everything's a tool. It's not an absolute. If it works for you and you're not seeing any type of spreading, which I haven't seen anywhere. There's been people planting it for over 10 years now, and you would think that there would be some kind of evidence of it, but who knows?
Right.
Time will tell.
I know Phragmita, like it's some nasty stuff, like the root system and how fast and how far that stuff can spread in a short period of time. It's some pretty nasty stuff.
For sure.
Okay, I got your Michigan farm pulled up here.
Yeah.
So as you have done that, what did you do best with that farm? And we'll put this on our YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this, you can look at the farm.
Can we cast it on the screen? Would that work or no?
Okay. Well, let's do that.
and this is just kind of like a picture I drew up more so to advertise for the land plans. But it actually is my plan.
Yeah.
Just not full out. So the thing I did that was the worst, I can tell you that first. I was cut down all the tall grass and cover and put in a giant food plot right in the middle. Just huge.
Human aesthetic versus habitat aesthetic.
Yep. So as I'm coming around on this whole thing, I'm letting it all grow back. Now I have food plots that kind of meander around. So in the middle here, you have cover that I'm letting grow back. Basically, the approach is the swamp's in the back, bedding. I don't screw with that much until
So this is a swamp right here?
Yep, that's where it starts getting low. And I just had all that logged last year. Took 150 trees out of there, too. So that's going to get just insanely nasty back there.
Yeah.
And in Michigan, that means it's where the deer are. And then I try to draw them out. And based on you see my stands are all around the outside. That's all just for access without getting too far in. I don't set foot in my food plots from October 1st on, or September 1st on. I don't leave a ground trail anywhere except along the property edges. Yep. And then those yellow marks are some hinge cut areas I did. This one down here is where I park my vehicle.
Yep.
So I hid my vehicle. And then the other one off to that'd be north there, off to the right, is kind of some hinge cut bedding area right over here.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a ridge top there, just a little higher ground. It's all very flat there where I'm at, and it's a little bit higher, and I have bucks bedding in there already. So that's worked out great.
And this is the piece you bought in 2017?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you had to give it, when you bought it, scale 1 to 10, how good of a farm was it? And then 2021, scale 1 to 10, where would you put it?
Sure. And what do you want to base how good of a farm it is on?
We're talking about deer.
Okay. So I would say I would judge that by the amount of daylight pictures that I receive or sightings that I have. I'd say the first year is probably 5. I bought it because I knew it had some potential, and now I'd say it's probably 8. I know there's some stuff that needs to be done still, and then my neighbors are just pushing it a little tighter on me, so it's making it tougher. But it's definitely improved. Daylight photos are there every year, and it's on its way up. So I'm happy with that.
Awesome.
You mentioned one thing I think a lot of parcel owners or managers, land managers probably have to deal with as they're improving their land and drawing more deer in, which is what they want. The neighbors see that, whether it's out of spite, jealousy, and they start hugging those property lines. Do you have any advice or things that you could do to I guess, minimize their impact? I mean, if they're on their ground, it's it's
Can't
hard.
really do anything. Yeah.
But is there something you can do around those edges or around those property lines to make you feel a little better about what's going on?
Yeah, so like we talked about those park effect woods, if you have those on your borders, leave them there. The deer aren't going to want to go in there unless, like we talked about before, acorns. If you don't have that, you can do some hinge cutting to block the view from coming in. You can cut some wider swaths of roads or access lanes and just leave them bare. Don't put any food or anything in them. Just let the grass come back and stuff like that.
Yeah, your hinge cutting comment. I know Dr. Jim up there in Michigan, he'll lay down a whole wall of trees, and that'll grow up into basically a natural fence, right? Can't see through it, can't walk through it, and then on his side, it's going to be nice habitat, cover, food in there, and the other side
Really
is
nice
probably
edge, interior edge. Yeah.
Exactly, and the other side is probably wide open. The deer are going to know where to go.
Yeah.
But like you said, Chad, as you improve your land, stand pops up here, stand pops up here, stand there, there. It's part of the game, really.
Right.
Yeah. Which, man, it's always so much nicer when you don't have fence hunters because the farm just hunts so much bigger. As soon as you have fence hunters, whatever the acreage is, that's the true size of the farm.
Sure is.
Not that you're shooting onto the neighbors, but it changes the dynamic completely.
One thing I never really understand about that is like, okay, you have a guy like yourself managing 15 acres. Obviously, the one parcel is already holding some deer in that swamp, probably bedding. But like as the neighbors see you have more success, like wouldn't like my mind is like, all right, if my neighbor's doing something, it's working. Like I want to do that too.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
Everybody's owning 20s or 40s or 60s, and like everybody knows the home range of a whitetail is a lot bigger than that.
Huge.
Like,
Yeah.
let's work together and like build something. Let's build a deer neighborhood where we're all working together. Like it just
Well, there's some
co-ops.
Well,
I mean,
where we do some whitetail cribs in Iowa. Yeah, there's that going on for sure.
Yeah.
But the problem is getting if you have, a 20-acre parcel, how many neighbors do you have?
Yeah.
How do you get everyone on the same page? It's impossible, I would say.
Yeah, there's cooperatives. That's exactly how you do it, and we have a lot of them in Michigan. That was actually the second requirement to my property was I had to be in or near one.
Okay.
And it was. But like you said, you'd think you can get some people on the same page, but even after talking about it, meeting with them, having lunch, out the whole thing, it's still hard to change somebody's habits, hunting habits when they're just brought up the way they were or whatever. And then at the same time, to your point about the neighborhood, I want my property or my client's property or your property, whomever's, to be the best. I want it to have everything the neighbors have and more. So if I'm the neighbor, I'd be like, I want my property to have everything that guy has, right? And more. So you want to be the outlier, the example, right? And if you're the neighbor who's not, get there some way or another.
Yeah, it's tough though.
It's
tough. I think of a farm, a fantastic neighbor, but he peels off the two biggest bucks in the area every single year just because hunting by handshake versus a manicured farm, which I'm not mad. I'd rather have him as a neighbor all day because he's not shooting 3 and 4 year olds.
Exactly. You gotta look at it that way.
Yeah, and they're giving me other opportunities. So let me ask this: would you rather have a giant neighbor that's going to peel off, 2 buck state, going to peel off 2 big bucks every single year, or would you rather have a hunter that is like brown and down, higher chance of
The former.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's letting 3-year-olds walk, 2-year-olds walk, that's all we need in Michigan is to let 1.5-year-olds walk.
Yeah.
That's all we need, and we can't get that done.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, but yeah, that's what we need.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Do you have any other questions?
off the top of my head.
Let me ask you this. I see you guys have an Amazon store. What's it going to take to get the render on there? The render's on Amazon. We've been pushing that here with Exodus. How do we get on the affiliate
get it
page?
Consider it done. Consider it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyone watching this, go click your guys' Amazon affiliate store, and then go buy the render.
Yep.
Everyone wins.
Yep.
Let's get
sure.
Yeah.
Let's get paid. Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. It was an idea of our friend Al, who helps out in the show a lot, and it's very minimal pennies that you get on the dollar, right? But
Yeah.
maybe over time something could work out with it, and yeah, we'd be happy to throw your cameras up there. Not a
Cool.
problem.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this too. So you guys have talked to a lot of different people. What are some of the things that have really stuck with you from different guests? It could be a client that you guys walked with. It could be a guest you had. But like, what's maybe a one-liner or something that stuck with you.
Like habitat-wise?
Anything.
Could be anything.
Okay.
I think for me, the biggest thing, no matter how much time and money and effort we spend doing this, it's all our behavior, access. That comes up every time. People that are successfully killing big bucks, whether you have the most beautiful farm in the world or a piece of public land, you got to have your access dialed. That would be it for me.
Yep. Don's not walking around all, nimbly bimbly and running around his farm. It's stay the heck out.
Yeah.
Actually, those are the words I have in our land plan: is stay the hell out. Right. That's number one rule. Number one rule.
Let me get on those talking notes. Let me ask you guys this, and this is a question like everybody is asking in their head is like, all right, how do you know when the time is right? Like, what triggers you guys to go in and hunt a specific time or a specific deer? Could be either. What information are you using? Are you using stand sightings, trail camera data, recent trail camera data like MRI, annual data? Like, what are you guys looking at to say, all right, I need to get in the stand?
Like when we had you on our show, we talked about this. I think it's now I can say it's annual data, right? Before that, and still on maybe places I don't know as much as usually cold front, wind out of the north or something like that. Something to get the deer up on their feet. It's really, I know that on my property I have camera pictures of daylight, good 3-year-old bucks in Michigan, which I'm happy to shoot, on like October 16th every year. Usually it's not getting too hot by then, and sure as shit, the last 3 years, just boom, boom, boom. And the wife scheduled a camping trip last year on that October 16th, so I didn't make it. And guess what? I had a picture, and it was like, man, okay, there's something to this annual thing, which I've heard about it for years. I never really saw it, so now I know. What about you?
Yeah, I'm a big trail camera, cell cam guy now. I mean, it's a fine line because we know that you don't want to totally get dependent on those. You want to keep your woodsmanship skills polished, which I try to do. But that MRI is huge for starting to see when they're showing up, and just go by that.
Okay, let me ask you this. Favorite, if you had to pick like 2 or 3 dates a year, and don't say any day I can go because I hate that answer. Because there's better days. Like there's historically better days. What are like the 2 or 3 dates that you're like, doesn't matter, the world could be falling and I'm going out that day?
Go ahead.
What do you have circled on the calendar?
I'll say October 26th and November 7th.
I like 2 of those days. Those are 2 awesome days, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Halloween and then November 5th. Yeah, I've killed both those days and just good memories, good time to be in the woods. How about you guys?
I gotta go November 11th just because it's my birthday. Actually, the story with the grunt call, that deer was killed on the 11th or 12th. I think it was the 11th. I think it was my birthday. November 11th.
November 3rd, I've killed 2 good bucks on November. It was actually back-to-back years. Wow. November 3rd, and then the other one, October 24th. I've yet to kill a big deer, but I've been like this close to like some slammers, and this is October 24th on a community scrape on the edge of doe bedding. That is
just getting going, right?
That's the formula there. You get them in the summer, maybe you got them last year on annual data. Like he's gonna be in there in the area. I need to sharpen my hunting skills to get it done, but I know I will eventually. But yeah, those are two of my favorite dates. Anything else?
No, I think that's. You guys have anything?
No.
We just appreciate you guys having us down. Really, we're big fans of you guys and the show and your cameras, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Where can people find your guys' website and your guys' podcast? Anything else you have going on?
Everything can be found at habitatpodcast.com. Very, very simple domain name there. Or anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, all that good stuff. Habitatpodcast.com. Everything's there.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Don't forget the Amazon affiliate page. No, I like that you guys do that because we always, there's only so much to go around in the outdoor industry, as I'm sure you guys have figured out. But for people that are creative and like people are already going to buy stuff on Amazon, it's an easy, free way for people to support you. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, and I was just thinking, my wife's got these packages showing up every other day. I swear, I'm like, I might as well get a couple pennies on each one and see what happens after a while. And there's other people that use that. I think our school uses that, so we ship it on that one too. It's just it's a good way to help build towards the end goal and keep this podcast running. And that's what we do with all of our main income. Let's put it back in the business.
Sure.
At this point, trying to build that business.
Right.
So we appreciate all the followers and the help and everything we can get.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure. We have some other things slated here today.
Yes,
so
sir.
we'll wrap this up. We'll link to all your guys' stuff in the description or the YouTube video below. And thank you.
All right. Thank you.